Welcome to the Sales Career Podcast. This is your host, Kevin Hopp. Whether you're an executive, sales leader, or just getting your career in sales started, I'm here to help you read between the lines and hear the real stories that you can't get from a resume or from a LinkedIn profile, all designed to help you shape your own sales career. Let's dive right into today's episode and see what we can learn. All right, welcome to another edition of the Sales Career Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Hopp. Joining me this week, I have a guy that I've followed on LinkedIn for, fun fact, years and years and years, probably 4 or 5 years. The first time I saw him was at a sales conference. He was the only man in the room taller than me. He's also an 8-time author, a partner at a venture capital firm, CEO of a consulting firm, and CEO of a software company. Can't wait to hear about that. Everybody, please welcome the great and powerful Cory Bray.
Hey, Kevin. Great to see you.
Howdy, howdy. So let's talk a little bit about, you've been in consulting for a while, and if anyone goes to your LinkedIn profile, they see all the books you've written in, all of like the things you've been doing in the past few 4, 5, 6, 7 years here. What was the foundation to that? Like you were an actual salesperson carrying a bag at some point, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. I definitely sold a lot and I definitely did some things, but my foundation was just learning business inside and out, learning how companies make money. They buy things from suppliers, they do things to them, and they sell them for profit sometimes.
Okay.
So my early career, my first job out of college was I was a financial analyst. And then I ended up being a head of operations at this company. It was kind of a conglomerate thing. We did lots of things, but for practical purposes, we basically just took this company that existed and made it much stronger, helped it grow, and then also started a couple of things, invested a couple of things on the side with the owner's money who were working for. So a little bit of diversity there on the finance side, but for the most part, it was really just how do we take this product and this service and make more money by satisfying our customers and keeping them around and getting new ones.
Which sounds like good sales practice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my first experience with sales was we had a sales team. We had a 20-person sales team. And my boss, the CFO, said, we just need to be more profitable and we need to grow top line. So I went and sat in the sales bullpen for 2 days and I heard a lot of things. And the consistent theme was these folks were a distribution business. So you're selling to people you've sold to in the past. They're just selling to their friends and they're avoiding challenging conversations. So we decided to hire 3 people from the outside, bring them in, and give them all the accounts that nobody was managing, all the neglected accounts, go drum up new business. Guess what? It worked. We scaled that to 7. Huge ROI. And so that was my first foray. That was 2007, 2008. And then I've been doing sales enablement and things around that ever since.
Wow. Well, I won't tell you what I was doing in 2008 because I was not selling anything. I was in high school. Fun fact. But
yeah, I'm getting old, man. I still got all my hair though, so it's fine.
You do. You got a full head of hair. That's impressive. So when you're helping grow this company, it sounds like a really interesting opportunity because you mentioned that you actually got to help the owner like invest in other companies. Did having to take that point of view and like seeing opportunities that way out on the macro level in terms of like this company should invest in that company, do you think that was part of your foundational knowledge in like becoming really good at sales itself?
Yeah, because whenever you're making investment decisions, you're doing a lot of financial due diligence. You're reading financial statements. You're understanding, well, what's the market opportunity? How good of a job have they currently captured that? How strong has the team been in terms of doing those types of things? So being able to analyze companies in advance of an acquisition was a great experience to really scrutinize how businesses work and where opportunity might lie that you can unlock. So for example, opening up new regions, adding new products, changing pricing and packaging, all of these things that directly impact sales. And if done poorly, can just completely disable the sales org.
I mean, it's interesting. You're the second person I've had on the podcast with a pretty successful career in sales that started not specifically in sales, but more along the lines of financial due diligence and banking or that general realm. And it's funny because like when I think about my own sales career, only 8-9 years, this is the 9th year of my career. the thing that I never had, the thing that no one ever said, hey, this is part of what you need to know, or this is something you should know, is the spreadsheet stuff. There's the tactical every day. Do we know how to make calls? Do we know how to send a good email? Do we know how to use CRM? Those kind of things. Then there's how does all of this track back to a bigger picture, which is money, which is revenue. Yes. Right?
Well, and so then coming out of that, long story short, I got into business intelligence, where there's companies like Tableau and Domo, Looker that we've all heard of. So I was a channel partner of a company called Burst that eventually got acquired. And what I did was used all this business experience where I truly understood tons of different industries and where the key levers were and how to read their financials and things like that. Did a ton of discovery with prospects to understand what they couldn't see right now through their analytics solution or their spreadsheets and what the impact of that is on their business. So having that business foundation really just unlocked and made sales easy, because you've almost got a sales engineer mindset as somebody that's also going in and closing deals. So it took a lot of work as a foundation, but once you get in there, then it just becomes much easier because you don't have all these blind spots.
Interesting. So like taking the perspective that you had early on, like that background helped you get really good at discovery.
Yes.
Right. And how critical is discovery, like as a skill to sales, would you say? Like,
if you're really not good at discovery, you should probably go do something else, because sales isn't going to work.
Ooh, I like that little spicy take. It's not for you if you're not good at discovery. What's interesting is I have talked to some people that say, like, look, I love sales because I like making money. Coffee is for closers. I'm a closer. Like, I can close people all day and night. Do you think that energy is equally as important as that consultative curiosity that it takes to really be good at discovery? Or where would you rank that coffee is for closers as it relates to like being a good discovery person?
I'd say that they're the same thing, because you do really good discovery and you set consistent next steps coming out of that, or disqualify, and you close. It's not the people that treat closing as an event are the people that are missing steps along their sales process. They're hoping things are going to close. Hey, look, our demo's awesome. Look where we are in the Gartner quadrant. Will you buy from me? None of that matters. But if we do really good discovery and consistently go deeper and broader on that discovery in each subsequent meeting, set good next steps that stick, then boom, eventually you have a deal or you DQ. And sometimes you lose competition. That's fine, but that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say.
Oh yeah. One of the things that like helped me turn the corner in my career was when I realized that as an account executive and someone who's like a closer, the most important thing that I was like missing was the idea that the next step is so critical. And I think early on in my career, tell me if you didn't experience this too, you tend to have rose-colored glasses looking at like and listening to what prospects say. If you do a demo and you got 3 or 4 people there and they're like, wow, yeah, Kevin, this is wow, this is a lot to think about. This is really interesting. Like, I really like this. Hey, Bob, what do you think about that? And then you see all that and then you think to yourself, they're going to call me back next week and they're going to say, hey, Kevin, we're going to sign next Thursday.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work like that.
No, and that's people in those positions just failed to have the right training and mentorship along the way, wherever they got it. I just remember my first boss. Again, we weren't doing transactional sales, but we were selling, we were buying, we were doing lots of things that required next steps. And every single time, he'd save 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the meeting, discuss next steps, and then him and I'd get in the car and drive home, or we'd be back in the office in the conference room, and he'd say, hey, let's debrief. How could we have done that better? Every single meeting. And this dude was Harvard undergrad, Wharton MBA, about as smart as they come. And that's all he was focused on, was the next steps and getting better. And that's what kind of launched me on this path. In addition to him just ripping everything I did to shreds and then forcing me to do it better. It was just a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, what a perfect little segue here. So you started ClozeLoop. Was ClozeLoop what it is today when you started out?
No, it was I was coming out of this software company that didn't work, where this audience might find this funny. I lost all my money. I blew up my 401k and I went $200,000 into debt.
Woo.
And all my credit was passed out on top of that. So it's fun. I was at dinner one night and this guy said, "Hey, do you mind picking up my appetizer? I'm kind of broke." I was like, "What's broke mean?" He says, "Well, I have enough money for rent this month and next month." I was like, "Oh yeah? Here's the balance on each one of my credit cards." I was throwing them on the table, and that was fun. But look, you got to take your shots, right? So, I did that with that software company. It didn't work out. And then Hellman and I, my partner, we're like, well, let's just go make money. So we just want to make money. So we started doing projects for clients and really productizing everything that we did along the way and just selling like madmen.
Wow. Okay. So how do you? That's a crazy little stat that you were like $200,000 in debt.
Oh yeah.
Do you recommend having such a violent entrepreneurial start to launching a company like that, or talk to me about that? Like, did you learn? Like, could you not have gotten to where you are today with that, or do you wish that I could have not done that and still been okay?
Well, I mean, I could have got a corporate job, but that's not my thing, and I definitely wouldn't recommend my path to anybody who's a quitter. So if you've ever quit anything, probably don't do what I did. But if you're let's use the phrase degenerate gambler who really believes in yourself, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Your choice. So
love that.
Yeah, no, tough path. But what it's allowed us to do is learn what it's like when things are tough and to prioritize. If anybody gambles, bet sizing. I think bet sizing is the most important skill of entrepreneurship. How much of my time, energy, and resources am I going to invest in this one, let's call it a hypothesis or experiment, and then pull that back and move on? And it doesn't matter if you're a founder or if you're a sales development rep that's trying to figure out what you're going to do to hit your number this month. Bet sizing is just a phenomenal way to mitigate risk and make sure that you got the best chance of hitting your goals.
Interesting. So bet sizing, can you explain that? Like, what is bet sizing specifically?
Yeah. So let's use craps for an example. So bad bet sizing would be bet everything I have on the hard eight. Probably not going to hit.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't hit, I'm done. I'm walking away from the table. I'm going to go play that only machine that I ever win, which is the ATM machine. And then what would be smart is you put a little bit on the pass line, you back it up with some odds. Maybe you bet a hard eight, maybe you bet a hard six. Don't bet a bunch on the field, and then you slowly bet up. And if you're winning, maybe you press the numbers, turn those $5 bets and $10 bets to 25 to 50, and then eventually you're not losing everything if something doesn't go your way. So in sales, that could be, well, if you think that manufacturing might be an interesting market for you, but you don't know yet, don't spend 100% of the first month going after manufacturing. I mean, you've already got some other industry, healthcare, for example, that might be a really good industry for you already. Just allocate some of your time, and it goes to channels too. If you want to try email or calling or LinkedIn or texting Kevin, bet size. Pick a little bit of your time, run an experiment, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. You didn't lose everything.
Gosh, that's a super valuable lesson, because I mean, with what I do, like helping really early stage companies build small sales development teams, it's not always, hey, here's exactly what's going to work every single time.
Yep.
It's let's go figure it out, and while we're figuring it out, spend 30% of your time doing this, right? Setting like reasonable KPIs around things so that we don't say, hey, I was trying to do cold email. I sent 5,000 cold emails this week and nothing happened, but I didn't make any phone calls.
Right. Yeah, you can't stop the business to run your experiments. Business still runs. Train runs on time.
That's right. So what the other thing that I think is really interesting about your career, Cory, is you've leaned heavily into being an author, right? You've written a lot of books. I don't think that there's a lot of salespeople listening right now that are saying, one day I'm going to write a book. And in fact, like, I don't think I've had anyone on the podcast who've told me, like, I'm going to write a book one day about this. I say it all the time that I'll write a book one day, but even I don't really think that's going to be something that I end up doing. It's just, I don't know. Talk to me about that. Like, how'd you get into book writing?
I just thought that the whole world of sales enablement was fairly undefined, and that there were a lot of people saying a lot of things, and it's real easy to throw darts and write one-pagers or ebooks to try to carve out your little niche. And so Hellman and I just decided, well, let's take a step back and let's really understand sales enablement from a broader perspective. without doing what some people do, which is create the most complex academic framework that's ever existed in life. So that was the idea. It's let's make it digestible by the masses, but complete and comprehensive. So we wrote the sales enablement playbook. I think that took us 200 hours between the two of us. And we also have a really good writing relationship. I send him something, he beats the heck out of it, pulverizes it. He sends it back to me, I do the same thing. And we just go back and forth. And one thing that we found is that we don't have any emotional attachment to anything. I don't care what the book's about. I don't care how many pages it is. I don't care what CoachCRM does in terms of features. It just doesn't matter. And if you're completely open-minded to taking feedback from the market, for example, I read every negative Amazon review for about 50 sales books, and I made a list of principles. Don't do that. We didn't. And so there's 50 things that I knew not to do because people were complaining about other authors doing them.
Yeah.
Being self-promotional, being too long, taking too long to introduce it, dragging on, using the same example 3 times in the same book, spelling errors, grammar errors, whatever it is. It's a magnet for their consulting business. All of those things, and they're like, okay, let's just do the opposite of all of those. It worked. Then we wrote 7 more because it was fun.
7 more. One of my favorites is sales development. I really like your book, Sales Development. I thought it was really, and I recommend it, right? FYI for everybody listening, we're going to have a lot of Corey's links in the show notes. So please go check these books out. I've personally read at least one of them, and I probably have another one from a time or two, but not the biggest book reader myself. It's probably a character flaw that I don't read enough books.
I'm not judging.
Good to know you're not judging. So fast forward now you're running a software company. So talk to me about CoachCRM, and one of the things I think is really unique, and another plug for you here for people to follow you. You're kind of live blogging, whatever you want to call it. You're sharing what you're working on with CoachCRM and building a software company from the ground up on LinkedIn, basically every day, every other day. So talk to me about that process and like why'd you guys start this company, and like what are you doing with it?
Well, what we realized, we trained 300 managers on how to coach their teams. And one, we realized that hard-leaning managers have formerly been trained on how to coach. And so it became a pretty popular product. And then second, months after our engagement, it was really hard for leadership to stay on top of, well, who's actually doing it, for managers to collaborate with each other, and to really build that internal coaching playbook across the org. And we said, this kind of feels like software. So we threw together a deck, showed it to a bunch of people. It resonated. And we said, all right, let's do it. Because one job's not hard enough. Let's do 2 jobs. Now we got CoachCRM incorporated in November, launched December 2021. And we're launching with live customers next week. But I already have 82,000 in revenue because you don't need to have product to make sales.
Whoa. You don't need product to make sales.
No, just got to solve their pain. And if you can solve their pain with something that's pre-product, such as, hey, let's hold sessions to train up your managers on how to coach their teams better, they'll sign the contract for the software now because they're getting something right now that they need that solves pain point for them.
Huh. Love that. Love the idea of that. So you guys aren't live yet, but you're almost to the point of going live with customers, but you've already sold.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of paid betas. I got 10 paid betas or so, maybe 8. And so they're going live starting next week, and we're just hammering on product.
Interesting. Well, it seems like a really interesting kind of evolution for you to become a software company leader now that you've been consulting and working with folks for so long. So you probably have like, of the people that I follow on LinkedIn, like I really appreciate. Let me fangirl moment for a second. I really appreciate like the perspective you take on a lot of issues on LinkedIn, right? Because on LinkedIn, there's a lot of hot takes flying around there, but I almost always appreciate the comments that you have. Talk to me a little bit about like, what have you learned working with so many organizations across the last 6-7 years with ClozeLoop, that people that are listening to this thinking like, how do I get better? How do I get further? What do I do next in my sales career? Like what do you think are some takeaways from like all of your experience working with clients like that?
I think that if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. And a lot of people struggle to know where they're going. And they might struggle to know where they're going in their career. Well, I'm in this role today. What do I want my next role to be? In their quarter? Well, here's where I'm at the beginning of the quarter. How do I get to where I'm at the end of the quarter? In the deal cycle, I'm at stage 2 right now, or I haven't reached out to this person yet. What specifically needs to happen to advance? Or inside the conversation, we're 15 minutes in. These things have happened. These things haven't happened. What do I need to do next? So the ability to have a real clear understanding of where am I going and specifically how am I going to get there, accounting for all the variables, because you're talking to humans and humans are somewhat unpredictable, but the things that are unpredictable around are fairly predictable. You know that they're going to push back for certain reasons. You know they're going to move forward for certain reasons. Being able to understand all of that and have a clear path forward, anticipate what types of roadblocks are going to be thrown in front of you, whether it's career, quarter, deal, or call, and have tools at your disposal to get past them. And if you don't have tools, go figure out how to get them. That's the simplest advice, but it's years of work to master it.
Yeah, master it. I mean, it's very, very rare you talk to people who have mastered it. I had Doug Landis on the podcast a few weeks ago, and his career was like Oracle, Salesforce, Google, and then had a big exit with Box. And it's like one of the guys that I could kind of say, like, he might have mastered it and he might have kind of won the game, It was funny interviewing him because like I started to talk about what you could see online about his career, and there was 15 years of sales experience before he even put anything on his LinkedIn profile. So I think about that all the time, that, am I doing the right things to set me up for the next 10 to 20 years of my career, right? Because
one thing I did in my younger years that my friend reminded me of the other day was I'd get on Wikipedia. I have a Wikipedia problem. I'll get on Wikipedia. I'll read for a long time, much longer than I should. And I noticed something that a lot of people that are very successful in business or in government or whatever, there's not hardly any detail about what they did before they were 35. And then right about 35, they start writing about when they did this with this company or with this administration, whatever it is. And then you start to track up. So my perspective early on, after absorbing just countless hours of Wikipedia, was it really doesn't matter what you do up until 35 or 40. Just be really good at it and surround yourself with awesome people. And you're just building an asset inside of your brain that you can then monetize later in your career.
Interesting. Doesn't matter what you do before you're 35. But you're to clarify, you're not saying like quit your job and like go to Cambodia.
No, I'm saying work harder and learn more things and get better at them. And if you want to think that it's not cool to work more than 35 hours a week, that's fine. Again, don't judge you. I frankly don't care what people do. I just remember one of my professors in college, he was the chief financial officer of Trammell Crow, a real estate company. And he gave us some life advice in the last class. He said, don't drive on 2-lane highways after 1 a.m. Don't go helicopter skiing. And if you want to work 35 hours the rest of your career, you're going to hit a glass ceiling, and you're the reason why you did that. And I just thought that was really profound. And so there's always things that you can look for outside of your current role. For example, if you're an early stage company, well, can you help out the marketing or customer success team with something specific, something acute, and really get some exposure to what the heck happens after we sell? Because what I always say about salespeople is they're at such a disadvantage because prospects lie and customers tell the truth. And if you don't have insight into the truth, the full truth, because they're already on the boat with you committed, then you're missing a lot of things that you just can't pick up during the sales process, because we're animals and we have defense mechanisms and we leverage those against salespeople. But once we're committed to a vendor, a company, then we start to open up a little bit. You can learn way more about your customer after they've signed a contract than you can before.
That's right. That's one of the things that I tell all the BDRs that I work with is open eyes, open ears. Get to know the people in other parts of your company. And that's, no longer is that, walk across the other side of the office. It means figure out who you need to Slack DM and set up a 15-minute coffee with to learn about how things operate on the other side, and then get to understand that customer journey in its totality, right?
Well, I think that remote work is very damaging to people earlier in their careers because they don't have that hallway time, that coffee break time with the VP of customer success, with the CFO, with people like that. And if your company is remote, thankfully, a lot of you are going back to the office already. But if your company's decided to go remote to talent arbitrage, so they can hire people in Arkansas instead of New York City, that's fine. Again, not judging.
Yeah.
But it's harder for you to get some real good, solid mentorship time with these folks because a lot of them have families and kids, want to get home and not spend time doing Zoom chats with people.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. The tough reality of a lot of people's current situation of what's going on. Like, I don't have an office to go to.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, Cory, thank you so much for taking a few moments here. I'm going to start wrapping up. I ask every guest the same 3 questions to finish up. So let's dive right in. So the first question is, what is the biggest commission check you've ever gotten?
Ooh. Biggest commission check I've ever gotten? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
All right. The answer is I don't know.
I do have some pretty big pre-seed equity stakes in some companies that raised a ton of money though. So as soon as they exit, whatever that record is, it's going to be blown out of the water. So I'm excited about that.
Love that.
Work for stock if you can, part-time.
Ooh, work for stock if you can is the answer to the biggest commission check. Right on. So the second question that I ask everybody, of all the things you've done in your career, and you've done a few things here, like what has been your favorite job?
CoachCRM, for sure. Because I just feel like I'm 38. I've been working for 16 years. I'm leveraging all the mistakes I made and all the things that I learned in order to just execute like crazy. And I'm overseeing design, product development, sales, and admin. And Hillman's doing a ton of work on the marketing and growth side. So I'm able to just leverage all those things and really just have a ton of fun executing.
I love that because it's your most recent job, like November 2021.
Yeah. If your most recent job isn't your best job, then either you got lucky or you should probably go work somewhere else. That's what I always say.
That's right. It's always interesting to hear when people talk about this because I would say most people that I have on the podcast, what they do today is not their favorite job ever, but it might be the most lucrative job, might be just where they ended up, whatever it is. So awesome. All right. Well, last question for you, and we'll let you go. Let's say money wasn't a factor. These pre-seed things take off, and you have all the money you need in the world. You don't have to work. What do you do with your time?
Wow. Good question. I would do a combination of 2 things. One, I would play bar games and lawn sports.
Love that.
My favorite bar game is simultaneously playing pool and Connect 4. So I'm playing pool against one person, I'm playing Connect 4 against the other person. And what I'd love to do is add chess into that. And so I've got all 3, and they're all trying really hard. And I talk about how much time I spend on my business skills and acumen. I've also spent an incredible amount of time on pool, chess, and Connect 4.
Wow.
And so I want to do that, and then just invest in advice, early stage tech startups in addition to that. And the cool thing is that in my experience, startup founders love playing chess, pool, and Connect 4. So there's some synergies there.
Yeah, it sounds like you know what you're doing by getting into those 3 things.
Well, I've been pulling muscles playing softball, so I still play softball, but the old hamstrings and the quads aren't loving it so much these days. So we're toning it down just a little bit.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Cory, let's end the pod with anything you want to leave with the folks. How do people connect with you? What's the most impactful thing that they can do with you?
Shoot me a direct message on LinkedIn, and if you do, I'll send you a free copy of any of our books. Tell me what you want, U.S. only, because international shipping rates are like $50, so that's silly. And I highly recommend the 5 Secrets of a Sales Coach. If you're a sales manager, aspiring sales manager, and you haven't been formally trained on Coach, your company is neglecting you, and we can help with that.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Cory, thanks for chatting today. I really do appreciate it. Let's stay connected, man.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Great seeing you.
If this episode is interesting to you, please share your thoughts on LinkedIn or Twitter. Tag me, and I might just feature your post in an upcoming episode of the Sales Career Podcast. Or if you want to connect directly, go to hopconsultinggroup.com and we'll find a way to work together. Cheers.